I am no stranger to the zeniths of the romantic comedy medium, such as Rent a Girlfriend and that's it. But this week, I want to talk about some rom-com manga that I really love, and I wanted to make sure these manga were lesser known ones too. I love series like Kaguya, but I think everyone knows what Kaguya is, so this week I'm looking to bring a spotlight on some series that you might not have heard of. My name is Ash, thank you for tuning in, and we're gonna get started right away with Love's in Sight. This manga is brought to us by Uoyama, and it tells the tale of a delinquent who falls in love with a blind girl. You're gonna hear me say the word sweet a lot throughout this video, but this manga is truly and honestly very sweet. The manga stars a guy named Morio Kurokawa, aka Morio the Black Panther, aka Marvel really wasted no time in recasting Chadwick. He's a roughed up delinquent and a bit of a goon, but he immediately falls in love with Yukiko, a girl who happens to be blind. I love them. I love them so much. I love how when he's being told how sweet of a person he is by Yukiko, his first thought is to go, let me be your goon. I'm up to date with this manga. I have been for a couple of months now, so I won't talk about everything here, but there's a lot of really nice aspects about it that I really enjoy. The mangaka put a lot of effort to not only showcase a blind person, but also multiple degrees of blindness and how it can affect people, whether it be people who are naturally born blind, people who grew it over time, people who have different degrees of blindness. Is actually really fascinating stuff. And it kind of reminded me of Real by Takahiko Inoue, in the sense that it really makes you realize, wow, society doesn't really help out people that are disabled, huh? They're just kind of expected to deal with their diseases and not be able to live a normal life. It's not fair, and this is one of those manga that really make you realize how difficult it can be. But despite how cruel the universe can be, you can never discount the human spirit of kindness. One of my favorite portions is when Yukiko has to get a job at a fast food restaurant, and it's difficult because she's a blind girl working in a hectic environment. But her manager and her fellow employees are very accommodating for her and actually go out of their way to make actual changes to how the restaurant is run in order to make things easier for her. And it makes you think oh, does the manager have ulterior motives? But no, he's just a genuinely good guy trying to look out for an employee that he cares about. And this manga is just full of characters that are just genuinely good people. The art is really unique. I've never really seen a manga that looks quite like this, and I love the faces that Yukiko and her friends make. They're always really adorable. I could make a collage of funny faces that Yukiko makes, but I hope it's not condescending or ableist. She's just really cute. Morio is also the sweetest little thing too. Despite his rough exterior and him being a delinquent, he is just really cute and also prone to just exploding with emotions, whether it be anger, sadness, fear, etc. He's adorable. The duo are a match made in heaven. I love them, and the series now has an official release, so definitely support the manga and the author if you have the chance. From one rom-com with a disabled lead to another, we have That's My Atypical Girl by Hagimoto Sohachi and Marita Renji. Compared to Love's in Sight, this one is very heavy, so I want to put a couple of warnings here. This manga deals with themes of self-harm, assault, bullying, mental illness, family issues, all sorts of things are going on here. The main character, Taku, is a doujinshi artist who makes NSFW work, and he lives by himself when all of a sudden one of his fans, a girl named Megumi, shows up and is like, hey, can I live with you? And he's like, huh? She is a huge fan of his work, and she also suffers from Asperger's. Megumi is very blunt, and she is no stranger to just talking about anything that comes to her mind, whether it be about herself or those around her. This has caused her to get into trouble in the past, and I don't think it's ever used in this manga for any sort of comedic scene or anything disrespectful like that. The manga is not constant suffering of Megumi going, woe is me, I have Asperger's, and also I was beaten up. No, it doesn't do that. It portrays the main two as very human characters. Their relationship is very grounded and realistic in terms of how they talk, their thoughts, how they feel about one another, and just their worries and anxieties that come with living with one another. Maybe some people can read this manga and see it as an I can fix her type deal, but I never really got that vibe because Taku also has his fair share of problems. His past isn't really the best, and his relationship with his dad is strained to say the least. So it's not like you have like, oh, here's this girl and she got all these problems, but she comes across the perfect guy to save her. Like, no, they both got issues. And the series also doesn't try to portray Asperger's as like this horrible plague that everyone who has it is just constantly suffering. Like, no, it's very respectful in my opinion. Like Love's in Sight, the art is very unique. I've never really seen a manga look quite like this, and I follow the author on Twitter. He's very kind and receptive to messages, and he's also constantly trying to make sure that what he's portraying isn't offensive and that he actually does his research. See, that's the sort of thing I really commend, because this could have easily just been a very harmful manga about dealing with illness and portraying this sort of thing in a bad light, but it looks like the mangaka is really trying to put some effort into researching this. Which I think is really important, because the negative stigma that surrounds mental illness in Japan and other Asian countries is really severe, to say the least. I think it was Hazel who said this, but can you guys think of any anime or manga that you've read or watched that had the main character go to see a psychologist? The example Hazel brought up in her video was Lane in the PS1 Lane game, and I can only ever think of that one character from Monster who was a therapist, and even then he was German and all his clients were German, so I don't know. I guess the point I'm trying to say here is that it's good to talk about this sort of thing and have media portray illness and the struggles and what it's like to live with in a easily digestible format. Of course, this series is very heavy and has very heavy moments that can be very difficult to read through, but if you can somehow manage to get through it, you will find a very charming and very loving manga about two kind of broken people trying to learn to love each other. This one, I believe, is also finished, but the scanlators are taking their time, and for good reason too. One of the most important aspects about this manga is the dialogue and the word choice chosen, so the scanlators want to make sure they are translating one-to-one what the author originally intended to, which is totally fine. All in all, great manga, very heavy subject material, but I think it's worth a read, and definitely give it a shot if you're interested in this sort of thing. Next up, we have the obligatory Ash Gyaru manga, Yancha Girl no Anjou-san. This one is brought to us by Kato Yuichi. Now, look, okay, I get it, she looks kind of like a bug in this cover art, it doesn't do her any favors. And also, it's kind of the stereotypical thing of you have the extroverted Gyaru who falls in love with the introverted shy boy. Look, I get it, let me have this. I love this manga, okay, it's really cute. I really think what compelled me for this one is the art. Again, it's really unique. All the manga I talk about today have very distinct and unique art styles, but it's really apparent here. Our main boy Seto and the main girl Anjou are very angular in how they're drawn, and so are all their friends. There's a lot of fan service early on, but in recent chapters there really hasn't been as much. Like, you would have some very well placed with speech bubbles blocking out like Anjou's like panties or whatever, so it's like fine, I guess. But it's whatever, it's cute, it's really cute. How do I sell you on this? Well, if you want a really sweet manga between a Gyaru and her shy but well-meaning love interest, well, here you go. I think the art again really carried it for me for the beginning, but once I got invested, I just found myself reading because I really enjoyed their writing a lot actually. The interpersonal relationships between the main cast is really good, and I love the dynamic of Anjou's side friends and how they all like intertwine with one another. Though, to be 100% honest, towards the beginning is really just Anjou going, I really love you, Seto, and Seto's like, and Anjou's just like, nah, I'm just teasing, or am I? Which is kind of apparent in a lot of Gyaru manga, so if you're used to that, you're used to that. If not, it can be annoying. But without spoiling the exact chapter, they do get together and become an official couple, and the series just continues trucking since then, so you have that to look forward to. I think I have mentioned this before, but I have this thing where if I am about to start a romance manga, I always click on the latest chapter to make sure the main couple has gotten together by the latest chapter. And if they haven't, I simply look away in a moment of being freaked out. I legit do not know how series like Rent-A-Girlfriend are able to just continue with like 4 billion chapters of absolutely nothing happening. Where was I? Yeah, Anjou has a really big forehead, like look at this. I want to like poke him with a stick or something. There's some underage toe action if you're into that sort of thing. It's a fun manga. It's inoffensive, it's sweet. I really love how not only the art develops over time, but the characters too. It's also a seinen, so you can put it up there with Vagabond and Berserk and Vinland Saga. This one doesn't have an official release, I believe, but if it does, definitely support it. I think it's really sweet, and it's worth looking into. When I use the term peak fiction, what comes to mind? Zeniths of the medium, the absolute cream of the crop, the top of the top. It's a term I love to throw around because I enjoy a lot of media, but I say, with extreme sincerity, that Sweat and Soap is the absolute peak of romance manga. You have Masako, who is always sweating, and Kotaro, who loves how she smells so much that he turns her scent into a soap. And every time she feels different emotions, her smell changes and he can tell like a dog. It is absolutely amazing. I am saying this unironic. This is not a bit. I genuinely adore this manga with every fiber of my being. It is brought to us by Yamada Kintetsu, who is a fantastic mangaka, and she puts out nothing but amazing romance manga. She has another manga out that just ended, Telework Yotabanashi, which is about a guy who falls in love with his neighbor after he's forced to work from home. And there is another manga, I think it's still going on, called Kasane and Subaru, where you have a boyish looking girl and a boy that loves to cross-dress. It's very sweet. These manga are great. All these manga are great. This lady cannot miss. She is physically incapable of missing, and that's further shown off in Sweat and Soap. This manga wastes no time. They get together within like the first few chapters, and the entire series is just dedicated to the main two, Masako and Kotaro, just learning to love each other and love themselves. Masako herself has been bullied her entire life for always smelling, so she's not really used to just having someone who actually loves her for her. Kotaro's background isn't really perfect either, but the two complement and just help each other out so realistically and so kindly that it really leaves a positive impact on you. Instead of having to worry about, oh, when are these two gonna confess, is more so things like, oh, I wonder when these two are gonna move in together, when are they gonna plan their wedding, how are they gonna plan their wedding, how much does it cost, when are they gonna meet each other's families, what about their jobs, how are they gonna go? As an adult, you just kind of want to read manga about consenting adults getting into relationships, and this manga is very realistic and very fun. Kotaro is kind of a freak. He really loves sniffing, but he loves his wife who smells like something, and you know what, that's totally fine. Like pretty much all the manga I've talked about today, the name of the game is really communication here. Whenever there's an issue, whenever there's an insecurity or a bad thought or what have you, these two talk it out. They make their emotions clear. They don't like try to circumvent around it. They are honest with one another when it's very difficult to be honest with themselves, which is something that's very hard to do. But it's a sort of conflict that really makes it kind of painful to read, kind of like Skip and Loafer, which I went out of my way to make sure not to bring up this video because I literally just talked about it the other week, but I love Skip and Loafer. I'm so glad they got an anime and people are loving it. Love that series. That series is also an example of good communication. Talk with your partners and just talk with your friends too. If you have beef, if you have trouble, talk things out and things will work out, or if they don't, you know, at least you said something. I keep getting distracted, but really it's because with all these manga, I don't want to spoil all the little moments that make it so great, but the relationship between Masako and Kotaro is just absolutely wonderful to see unfold. You see this girl who, like I mentioned, is so used to being bullied, slowly come out of her shell and grow to be more confident and open herself up to not only her lover, but her friends in the audience. Their co-workers are super supportive of the relationship, and it's really sweet to see unfold, especially during the final arc when they're planning their wedding. The parts that always get me is when they go back to their hometowns and get to see each other's family. It's very close to home. You never really shake those nerves of inviting the person you love to visit your family. It's very nerve-wracking, and they handle it really well here. All in all, a wonderful manga, a beautiful manga, very well told, and I'm glad to have experienced all of the manga that I've talked about today. I hope you guys give anything I talk about today a read, and if you do, let me know, because I really love all these series and I want more people to check them out. This has been Ash. As always, I thank you for listening to the end of this video. I'll read off my patrons here and then call it a day. Thank you to Polaroid Jack, Sarah Lolita, Borpulus Vunny, Real Century, Luce, Vanto, C Crowns, V, Andrew, Audrey, Graystar, Silgon, Amatiramisu, Logan, Sianaru, and Jiva. Thank you guys for your support as always, you really do mean the world to me, and I'll see you guys next time. What will I talk about? I really don't know. I hope it's Shenmue, it might not be, but I hope it is. Take it easy, you guys.